You're trapped. Right now, at this very moment, something in your life has complete control over you. Maybe it's your phone, video games, porn, alcohol, or that endless scroll through social media. You tell yourself you'll stop tomorrow, that you're in control, but tomorrow comes and you're right back where you started. I've been there, stuck in that exact cycle, convincing myself I could quit whenever I wanted, while my life slowly fell apart around me. And if you're watching this, there's a good chance you're stuck too. But here's what nobody tells you about breaking free from addiction. It's not about willpower, it's not about motivation, and it's definitely not about just stopping. If you genuinely want to transform your life and finally break these chains, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because what I'm about to share will completely change how you understand addiction and, more importantly, how you beat it. Let's talk about what's really happening inside your skull right now. Your brain isn't designed for the modern world. It evolved over millions of years to reward behaviors that kept you alive: finding food, reproducing, staying safe. But now we've hacked that system. Every time you get a notification, watch explicit content, play that one more match, or take a drink, your brain floods with dopamine. This is the molecule that makes you feel alive, motivated, and satisfied. But here's the trap that most people never understand. When that dopamine spike happens, your brain doesn't just return to normal afterward, it crashes below your baseline. Way below. That's when the exhaustion hits, when you can't focus, when nothing else in life seems worth doing. Your brain is screaming in discomfort, desperate to get back up, and it knows exactly what will work fast. More of whatever got you high in the first place. This is the cycle that's destroying you. The bigger the spike, the harder you crash. That's why cocaine, explicit content, and video games are so devastating. They send your dopamine through the roof instantly, but the crash afterward leaves you feeling worse than before you started. Your brain starts rewiring itself, reducing its natural dopamine production because it expects you to keep supplying the artificial hits. You're not weak for struggling to quit. Your brain chemistry has literally changed to keep you addicted. Now here's the part that makes quitting so brutal. Your addiction isn't just something you do anymore. It's become part of your identity, woven into the fabric of your daily existence. Think about it. When you wake up, when you're bored, when you're stressed, when you're celebrating, the addiction is there. It's as automatic as brushing your teeth or checking the time. You've probably tried to quit before and made it a few days, maybe even a week. But then you're right back because you're trying to remove something that's become a fundamental part of your routine without replacing it with anything else. That's like trying to delete a file from your computer without understanding that the system needs something to fill that space. The first real step isn't downloading some app or making promises to yourself. It's brutal self-awareness. You need to look yourself in the mirror and admit the truth. You're not in control anymore. The addiction controls you. Some people spend years lying to themselves, saying they could stop if they wanted to, that it's just for relaxation or stress relief. But if you're playing games 8 hours a day, if you can't eat a meal without scrolling, if you need a drink to feel normal, you've crossed the line. The activity doesn't serve you anymore. You serve it. So how do you actually break free? Most people try to go cold turkey, and most people fail. You can't just rip out something that's been feeding your dopamine system and expect your brain to be okay with it. That's why replacement is crucial, but it has to be the right kind of replacement. You need to find activities that raise dopamine slowly and sustainably. This is the key difference. Fast dopamine from games, substances, or explicit content spikes hard and crashes harder. Slow dopamine from reading, exercise, creating something, or genuine social connection builds gradually and sustains. When I was drowning in gaming addiction, spending entire days glued to my screen, I didn't beat it by deleting the games and suffering. I started lifting weights. At first it was boring compared to the instant rush of gaming, but something shifted. I began watching fitness content, learning about nutrition, tracking my progress. The gym gave me a dopamine hit, but it was different. It felt earned, it felt real. My body was changing, I was getting stronger, and that progress became addictive in the best way. Slowly, without even trying, I had less time and less desire for games. The alternative source of dopamine was healthier, more fulfilling, and actually improving my life instead of destroying it. You need to find your version of this. Maybe it's art, maybe it's martial arts, maybe it's building something with your hands. The point is to redirect that craving towards something that builds you up. But here's where it gets real. Sometimes replacement isn't enough. Sometimes your addiction has such a grip that even good habits can't compete. You'll find yourself working out consistently, reading books, doing all the right things, and still sneaking back to the old patterns. I experienced this firsthand. Even when I was in the best shape of my life, I'd still find hours to waste on games because they were still there, still accessible, still calling. Everything changed when I found my obsession. I started this channel with a burning goal to grow it, to create content that mattered, to build something meaningful. Suddenly, every free moment wasn't free anymore. I was scripting, filming, editing, researching, thinking about the next video constantly. My mind was occupied. There was no mental space left for the old addictions because I was completely consumed by something that actually mattered to me. This is the secret weapon most people never discover. You need something to be genuinely obsessed with. Not just a hobby, not just something to pass time, an actual obsession, a goal that consumes you, a project that demands your attention, a passion that makes everything else seem boring by comparison. When your mind is full of your obsession, there's no room for the addiction to creep back in. And here's a practical tip that saved me countless times. When the urge hits, and it will hit, don't fight it directly. Don't sit there thinking, don't do it, resist, resist. That just keeps your mind focused on the very thing you're trying to avoid. Instead, immediately redirect to a positive thought, a happy memory, something you're excited about, a moment that makes you smile. Train your brain to associate urges with pleasant alternatives rather than the internal battle of resistance. Let's address something nobody wants to talk about, but everyone experiences. Why do we actually turn to these addictions in the first place? It's rarely about the activity itself. Most of the time, we're running from something. Bad day, game for 6 hours, feeling lonely, scroll for 3 hours, stressed about life, drink until you forget. We use addictions as emotional band-aids, covering up the real wounds without ever treating them. If you're constantly feeling terrible, your brain will constantly seek fast relief. This is where mental health becomes the hidden foundation of beating addiction. You can replace habits and find obsessions, but if you're mentally struggling every day, you'll keep sliding back. Building mental resilience isn't complicated, but it requires consistency. Meditation rewires your stress response. Gratitude practice shifts your baseline happiness. Physical health directly impacts mental health. Poor sleep, bad diet, and no exercise create the perfect storm for addiction. Social connection gives you real dopamine from genuine human interaction. And here's the hard truth. You need to remove yourself from toxic environments and people who enable your worst behaviors. If your friends are all doing the same destructive things, if your environment makes the addiction easy and accessible, you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back. Mental health isn't just about feeling better in the moment. It's about building a life where you don't need to escape anymore. Now we're getting to the most powerful transformation tool available to you, your identity. Who do you think you are? Not who you want to be, not who you pretend to be, but who you genuinely believe you are in your core. I struggled with explicit content addiction even after I'd beaten gaming, even after I'd built good habits. Nothing worked until I met someone I genuinely wanted to be with. Suddenly, I couldn't stand the version of myself that was trapped in that cycle. I couldn't imagine being in a relationship while still being that person. So I stopped being that person. Not through willpower, not through restriction, but through identity change. I became someone who simply didn't do that anymore because it wasn't aligned with who I was. This is the ultimate weapon against addiction. People act in accordance with their self-image. If you see yourself as an addict, as someone who struggles, as someone who's weak, you'll keep being that person. But if you genuinely shift your identity to someone who's got their life together, someone who's disciplined, someone who's past those struggles, You won't even think about quitting because you've already quit. You're already that person. The behaviors just naturally fall into place. Start small. Instead of, I'm trying to quit games, say I'm someone who values my time too much to waste it on games. Instead of, I'm struggling with drinking, say I'm someone who doesn't need substances to enjoy life. This isn't just positive thinking. This is rewiring how you see yourself at a fundamental level. When your identity changes, everything else follows. Here's the final truth about breaking addiction. You're going to relapse. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but it will happen. And when it does, your reaction determines everything. Most people relapse once and spiral completely, thinking they've destroyed all their progress, that they're back at square one, that they're hopeless. That's the addiction talking, trying to pull you back in. A relapse isn't failure. It's data. It's information about what triggered you, what circumstances you need to avoid, what strategies you need to strengthen. If you stayed sober for a week and slipped up one night, you didn't fail. You succeeded for 7 days. That's 7 days of progress, 7 days of building new neural pathways, 7 days of proving you can do it. Now you set a new goal. 2 weeks, then 3, then a month. Each time you extend that streak, you're getting stronger. The path isn't linear. There will be ups and downs, good weeks and terrible weeks, moments of clarity and moments of weakness. But every time you choose differently, even if you slip sometimes, you're moving forward. I went from gaming 8 hours a day and feeling worthless to someone who's proud of who they've become. Not because I'm perfect, but because I kept choosing progress over comfort. You can do this. You can break free. But you have to want it more than you want the temporary relief. You have to be willing to replace, to obsess over something better, to fix your mental health, to change your identity, and to forgive yourself when you stumble. The life you want is on the other side of these addictions. Stop waiting for the perfect moment and start today. Drop your strategies for beating addiction in the comments. I'd love to hear what's worked for you. And if this video helped you see addiction differently, subscribe because your transformation is just beginning.